Ashely Sellers, speech language pathologist and owner and operator of Speech Language and Beyond. I am coming to you today to talk to you about auditory processing. I gave you a brief video last week of auditory processing and more specifically how to deal with auditory memory, which is one of the difficulty areas that people have when they are diagnosed with auditory processing. It's really not a deficit area, but it's a skill that people show a deficit in, and I gave you tips and strategies of some things you could do to make that skill a little bit stronger. I promised you that I would come back to you this week and talk with you again about auditory processing, but how it dealt with how people are able to listen to sounds, to discriminate them, to blend them together. And the category or the skill that we're actually referring to is referred to as auditory discrimination. So I did take a few notes because I wanted to make sure that the information I'm providing you is as accurate as possible and that I'm giving you effective tips and strategies that you can use at home with your child in order to strengthen this skill. So when we talk about auditory processing, we're really talking about what do we do with the language that we hear. So again, auditory processing has to do with what we hear, but how are we listening to it? You can hear something and not listen. That's also like when someone is saying something to you. If you're not really paying attention to them and you're distracted, your mind is on something else, you heard them, but you weren't listening enough to recall back to them what you said. And that's pretty much what auditory processing is. How do we respond to what we hear? If we break that down a little bit more, what we hear are words. Words are made up of sounds. We take those sounds, we create words. We combine words together to form sentences. So when we look at it from that particular perspective, then we can understand how auditory discrimination of sounds is really important. We know that sounds create words. So for example, if we have the word hat, H-A-T, you would have to understand that H is H, A is A, and T is T. And we take a hat, the meaning of the word hat to be something that we wear on our head. If we take the H in hat and we change it to a B and gives us the word bat, we see how changing that H to a B creates a different word, therefore changing the word's meaning. And it's important that as we listen to others talk, we're able to distinguish between the words and sounds that we hear in order for us to accurately respond to what they're telling us, okay? So auditory discrimination more specifically refers to how we notice sounds, how we compare them to other sounds that we hear, how we differentiate between one sound versus another sound, and how distinct and separate sounds can be as they are put together in words. And when a person has difficulty with these sounds or this particular skill with isolating sounds, with recognizing the sound we hear at the beginning of a word, recognizing sounds that we hear at the end of a word, or recognizing how a word sounds once you take the separate sounds and blend them together, it can have an adverse impact on their ability to spell, to read, their reading comprehension, the writing skills, as far as being able to put words together to form a sentence and being able to do so by using the correct spelling of the word. So that's what can be impacted, okay? So today, what I wanted to do was talk with you about an activity that I created, and it starts off dealing with vowel sounds, because vowel sounds are sounds as well. And you know we have our short vowels and we have our long vowels. Then vowels can also be impacted by the consonant sound that comes before it or after it. Vowel sounds also, even though they are open mouth sounds, they still create a shape when we say them. So some vowel sounds are made high in the back of the mouth or low in the front of the mouth. Some vowel sounds cause a rounding of the lips or maybe a spreading of the lips. So that's very important. And if you put like maybe a sound like K that's made at the back of the mouth with a sound that's made more towards a vowel sound that's made more towards the front of the mouth, it can have an impact on how sounds are said or how those sounds come out, and they can sound different depending on what other sounds are surrounding it, if that makes any sense, okay? So the activity that I created is called the Articulation Vowel Sort and Phoneme Blending Instant Language Center. So as you can see, I have all of the vowels listed here, and we're mainly targeting short vowels, okay? So we have a as what we hear in k, at. We have e as what we hear in b, ed. I as we hear in p, ig. And we have a, such as what we hear in d, og. And then we have is what we hear in h, ut. Here I have book, and I don't know what made me choose that, so I'm definitely going to go back and change this to another one that represented a little bit more, because that in book is just really hard, and it doesn't to me really relate to the sound as we hear in h, ut or n, ut. So please excuse that error. But what I did was, as you notice, there are 5 vowel sounds here, and there are columns, okay? So you're going to have sample words that contain each one of these vowel sounds in the middle, and I specifically put it in the middle, like I said, because consonant sounds that come before or after a vowel sound can impact what the word sounds like to others when they hear it. So it was very important for me to put that short vowel in the middle of the word, okay? So as you see, now you see I have all these pictures here, excuse me. All of these pictures here that are on the table. These pictures represent the short vowel sounds that we hear. So the first thing that you can do is, after you've reviewed what the vowel sounds sound like on their own, and then you insert them in the word that's given as the example, then you're going to put this pile of words in front of them. Let them choose a picture, or you choose a picture. They say the name of the picture. So for example, here we have rock, and that's how you want to say it, rock, rock. Where would we put rock? And of course, we want them to recognize that there's a short O sound in that word, and they're going to put it under the vowel sound that it corresponds with, okay? And you're going to do that for the rest of them. So for another one, for example, they may have the word ill, ill, ill. What vowel sound do we hear in ill? And then of course we want them to put it with the short I sound, okay? So that's one way that you can use this activity. Well, I also decided, well, let's do a little phoneme blending, okay? So I have these packets here. These are all the pictures are represented here on the table, but in this packet, this represents all the letters for the words that have the short I sound in them. So you will open up this packet, and you're going to pull out all of the letters that represent the words that are represented for the short I sound, which is I. So they're here, okay? And you're going to choose a picture mat, all right? So you're going to take one of the pictures out of the pile. So for example, we had heel, and you're going to place heel here. And what you can do is, you're going to take these letters, you're going to spread them out on the table in front of the child where they can distinguish between them. And you're going to say ill, ill. Can you find the letters that represent ill? So you're going to take it, and they should find the H. I'll put it here, the I here, and then the L. They're going to place it here. I know you probably can't see that too well. Okay, and then they can find the sounds that make up the word, okay? Or you can choose to start with the letters first and say, here we have H, here we have I, here we have L, ill, il. If we blend all of those sounds together, what word in the pile does it give us? And they should find heal. So we're separating the phonemes by having them sounded out and finding the picture based on it that way. Or we're giving them the picture and say find the letters that correspond with it as well. So you can flip it. So this is a way to work on auditory discrimination by having them tell you the sounds that they hear in the word, and then once they find it, you can take it all away and say, we just said the word heal. What is the beginning sound in heal? What is the last sound that you heard in heal? What is the vowel sound that we hear in heal? And that way they don't have a picture cue to show them. They don't have, all they have to depend on is just the auditory. They don't have any other cues to put in place to help them come up with the correct answer. You can find this activity on my website at www.speechlanguageandbeyond.com/products. You're going to stroll down to the language section and you're going to look for the articulation, vowel, and phoneme Instant Language Center, or you can get the direct download through my Etsy shop. It is called Articulation Creations and it's listed under Speech Language Beyond. And please look for very soon for you to be able to order this already made and already put together. It will not be available on my website. It will only be available through my Etsy page, but I hope that I gave you information that is useful for you, that you can use. There is a free sample of this activity also on my website for you to have, and there are so many other activities like this that you can just really create on your own. Like you can just find your regular CVC words and start with word families like at, et, il, ick, and start with those particular word families and then just change the beginning letter. That's another way to get them to recognize words and their sounds. You can start with simple CVC words just like that to help them isolate the sounds they hear or the phonemes that they hear in the word, have them blend it together. And then also you can even take it as far as getting them to make sure that they understand the difference between maybe sick and lick, knowing that the S and the L is different. Get them to use the word in a sentence. And another thing that I also want to highlight to you as well, a lot of times what I do when I have younger children that are coming to me between the ages of 2 and I would say 5 years old, if they have a severe articulation disorder, I'm talking about to the point that it's really hard to understand what they're saying, and a lot of that may have to do with the fact that they are not slowing down enough to make sure they're making all the necessary shapes needed in order for a word to come out correctly. Maybe their lingual coordination is off. Those are the children that I will tell parents, okay, when they get to a certain level in their therapy, we're going to work on activities very similar to this to make sure that they can tell the difference between, they know that they're saying a sound incorrectly, but you want to make sure that if they're doing a R for W, so they're giving you wed instead of red, you want to know that they will understand when it comes time for them to learn how to read, that when they see the word red, even though they're saying wed, that there's going to be an R and not a W at the end of the word, that the word does not look like the way that they're saying it. And that's how we're able to distinguish between whether or not a child has an articulation disorder or a phonological disorder, or both together. That's very important. And just to give you another example, I just don't want to focus on what I have available on my website. I just want to show you different things that you can also buy out of your local store. These are two activities. This is called spelling and it's called Match It. This one is by The Learning Journey. I also have, this one is from Clever Kids, which is by The Learning Journey as well, another subset of their company. It's also called Spelling. It's Match and Learn. And so what I love about these so much is that they allow you to work on articulation where you're breaking down the sound and having them blend it back together so they can get a feel for it, but it's also still giving them that same thing that this particular activity that I have is giving them as well. It's giving them an opportunity to see the sounds that are within the word. All right, so let me give you an example of that. Okay, so let's try this one. All right, so of course, this is a bug, right? So you put it together to get the bug, but you break down the sound b, g, so they can practice the individual sounds if they are not producing them correctly. But then it also gives them the spelling for the word for them to actually see the sounds that are there. B, g, b, g. You can ask, what's the first sound in the word? They should say b. What's the last sound in the word? G. What vowel do we hear a short U sound? So that's another type of activity that you can find in one of your local stores like Target or Ross or Marshall, stores like that, where you can find these types of activities that also help with them being able to discriminate between sounds, okay? And like I said, when they have difficulty with recognizing that when you change a sound in a word, that it changes its meaning, that's a phonological disorder that could possibly lead to them having a reading comprehension disorder, or difficulty with spelling, difficulty with writing appropriate sentences that have the right type of meaning. And so I hope, like I said, this video really does help you. And if you have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to email me or to give me a call. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the